this is probably going to be the most schizo conversation of my life. And I want everybody to know that you're getting onto a schizo train.
Those are like values that we in the West traditionally like to some degree.
No, see, here's why I hate what you just said.
Oh man, I think to some extent that is where we're at.
You're blowing my mind. Sorry, you're not blowing my mind. You're scrambling it. If everything you're saying is in fact the actual dynamics of the world, then I would have to concede, based on my fundamental values, that the people who are advocating Sharia law are doing it right.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree. That's the whole point that they're making, though, right? Is that also careful with that? Just 3%, okay? Because a few percentage points of DNA can make, like, what is the difference between somebody that has like the genes that predispose you to like schizophrenia versus not? It's probably like 0.0000001%.
Yes, exactly.
Of your genome. Like, I'd be careful. 3%. That's a lot of DNA. Also,
that's a lot of DNA.
Or like,
thought experiment. Imagine humanity. We're chugging along, doing our stuff normally, and boom, suddenly there's like a force field around Earth. Turns out our alien overlords have come to hem us in because, I don't know, they expect to get some utility out of us. And the force field is kind of like constructed out of some sort of computer code. But other than the fact that we're kind of helpless, these aliens are kind of actually benevolent. They give us full access to the civilization, their entire history, their writings, culture, how they originated, their biological makeup. We have access to their full range of expression. There's one thing that we're better at them at. They're slower than us. When I say slower, I mean it takes them about 10 days to have one thought that we can think in, 2 seconds. Given those constraints, how long do you think it takes for us to break out of the force field?
We have full access to all of their knowledge and everything?
Pretty much.
I mean, if it's seriously that, I would say probably like a month or less. That'd be my guess.
So, given that you've answered it that way, what makes you think it'll be so hard for an AI to jump platforms?
Because I don't know if an AI is necessarily given full access to the world in the way that humans are, in terms of like physical form and able to manipulate things like outside of computer systems.
We do use AI a lot to manipulate a lot of different systems around the world. Already.
Okay.
No, so just like what I'm trying to do is sort of like readjust your prior, because based on the thought experiment, you didn't have a problem thinking about accessing that. We'd have a problem about breaking out of any sort of a virtual box at the
I was gonna, well, now I should have qualified it because now it's gonna sound like I'm making this up now, but one of the things I would have asked is, do the alien creature, I probably should have asked this, do the alien creatures have access to like other dimensions that we don't have? That would have been a question that I probably should have asked, or I was thinking about it kind of like, because in a lot of alien movies, they're like for instance, like in Interstellar, they have access to like another dimension. Because if that's the case, then it might be an infinite amount of time, because there's something that we just can't transcend because of physical form or something, potentially.
Sure. In that case, I'm going to go ahead and say that since we have knowledge that they have access to those dimensions and they tell us how they got that access, how long do you think it takes us to get that access?
The other dimensions, I don't know. I guess it depends on if it's like fundamentally inaccessible to us or not. I'm not sure. But okay, let's say that I grant all of this and okay, the AI is coming. Like, what do you want me to say? Why didn't you come on and argue with the other AI guys?
Oh, I wanted to, believe me. But again, my audio issues were tucking me out. Anyway, all I'm trying to do is maybe slightly update your Bayesian priors in the direction of, the AI threat being a little more significant than wherever you currently are at right now.
Yeah, I mean, it might be. I don't know what I'm supposed to do about it, so I probably don't think about it much.
What in terms of what you're supposed to do about it, you do you. Whatever you do for all the other things you care about.
Well, I mean, if it's like such a huge existential threat, sometimes it's nothing. Like, we don't talk about climate change much because I don't know how much individually like we can do anything related to climate change right now. So I don't talk too much about that.
Interesting.
But I mean, I understand what you're saying. I'll keep it on my radar more,
All right. I bring this up because there is that guy, Eliezer Yudkowsky. A lot of people consider him a quack, and he is a bit of a quack. I will give that to people who criticize him. But a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, you briefly put on Lex Friedman's interview with him, and I don't think you did not get too deep into it because it doesn't, with the way he talks, it doesn't come across as the most exciting. But just let me tell you a couple of things about this guy. He's an autodidact. He rose to fame because earlier in the late 2000s, he basically wrote this blog called Less Wrong, and he made one blog post every day for 3 years straight. And that blog post is what founded the rationality movement as it exists today. So,
Okay.
that community that Ayla's a part of, yeah, also, the reason Scott Alexander, the Slate Star Codex guy, the reason he's a thing is because he was initially a prolific commenter in that community. So, I don't know if your path is ever going to cross with this guy, but he is active on Reddit. He became even more famous because he wrote the Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality as a way of, sort of making people aware of the stuff he was doing. What he's researching is something called friendly AI. He wants to, I think, mathematically parameterize the constraints we would need to put on any future artificial intelligence, like artificial general intelligence. So if you can, I don't know, get a connection somehow going there, or maybe just keep like an antenna out for anything interesting happening there, I think it'll be a little bit better than maybe your current level of engagement with that whole sphere.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
This is probably going to be the most schizo conversation of my life. And I want everybody to know that you're getting onto a schizo train, and don't take it too seriously, all right?
Okay.
So, after you did shrooms, I think you said you experienced some kind of death anxiety for the first time ever.
Yeah, for a little bit, yeah.
Describe it to me.
I think there were two parts. I think one was just the feeling of slipping off into sleep and then worrying that you were about to enter some sort of eternity that you weren't ready or prepared for. So like, for instance, you could sleep and then wake up 7,000 years from now when they found a way to like revive you computationally or travel to the past or whatever. But if it were to happen, you literally close your eyes, open them, and then you'd be in a whole other, like basically almost like an unrecognizable world. So that's like one worry. And then the second worry was just the concept of imagining like a forever like non-existence. Like, what was it like before you were born? What's it like to sleep dreamlessly? Like, those two things, just for whatever reason, they crept into my head and they bothered me a lot.
So the first part of how you answered is interesting, because what you described there doesn't sound like death. But okay, describe death to me. What is death to you?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess like before you were born. So it's kind of like a meaningless question. I don't know how to even answer it. Yeah.
No. So the implicit assumption in your first part of your answer was that you were afraid that you would quote unquote die, but that would not be the end of your experience.
Potentially, yeah.
So a lot of people obviously care about death. They're scared of it. They're scared of what comes afterwards, whether there's a heaven, hell, purgatory, or just nothingness. And I think that nothingness part is probably what scares a lot of people. Personally, I'm like in your boat. It's not the nothingness that scares me. I'm afraid that if I die, my experience is not going to end.
Sure. You'll be like locked in a room in your head forever, basically.
It's not just that I'm going to be locked in my room forever. How do I put this?
Wait, let me grab a drink real quick. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead. How are you doing, chat? I want you to know I was polite. I asked chat just if I could stick around. A lot of you voted yes, so I feel vindicated. And for those specific people who hate when I go off on my rants, blame the rest of DGG, all right? Thanks.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
All right. So, given all that, I'm going to try and come at it from a different angle.
Okay.
Is it still one of your fundamental axioms that you derive your morality and ethics from the fact that you're trying to maximize your experience?
Generally speaking, yeah. Yeah.
Did that change in any way before or after you did shrooms and to any degree?
No, I don't think so. Not that fundamental thing, no.
All right. So the reason I'm asking is for you, again, I mentioned this before, you don't talk about death. And for someone who wants to maximize his experience...
Wait, are you about to do the whole thing? Are you going to do the thing? Was it you or was somebody else?
What thing?
Some people argue that there is literally nothing more important in life for a wealthy person than to do a fuck ton of investment and research donation into immortality, essentially. Is that what you're about to do?
No, I know of that. I know of that crowd.
Okay,
That's actually not what I'm going. Specifically, not what I'm going to do.
Okay.
But still, for a guy who wants to maximize his experience, you seem pretty fucking unconcerned about what is basically the greatest experience nullifier in existence.
Mm-hmm.
Because, do you in fact know death is an experience nullifier?
Not necessarily. No, I said I don't know that, right?
I don't know if you said. Oh yes, that was.
I mean, I'm assuming it is, but I mean, I don't know that, and it's hard because, like, in a way, I'm sure you know this shit. You know, like what the Drake equation is.
Of course.
Like death is kind of like that, in that for like the Drake equation, it's this idea. The Drake equation is a way to try to answer the what's the name of the paradox? Where it's like not paradox, but like there's so many worlds. How have we not found life yet?
Great filter thing.
No, it's fuck. There's another name for like what the Drake equation gets at, but essentially, like it's this idea. Oh, the Fermi paradox, I think, is what it is. What I'm thinking.
Oh, the Fermi, yeah. The Fermi
but the
paradox,
idea is that like if I die, what are the chances that I'm going to be brought back to life in a way that my conscious form remembers what happened in the past, right? Well, probably like there's like 0% chance. That seems to be the case.
Oh wait, yeah. Wait. Sorry.
What?
No, okay. Sorry. Go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
There's probably like 0% chance. However, if I stretch out like an almost infinite amount of time between now and the end of the universe, well, it becomes much harder to guess that at that point. Like there are so many potential technologies that could exist that I can't think of right now. There are so many potential ways to reconstruct the atoms in my body, the conscious experience I had technologically or biologically, that now it becomes a bit harder to answer that question. So could it be that if I pass out and die right now, in 12,000 years, I'm resurrected in some other place, space, time, right? That could be the case, right? So that's the thing that I was kind of thinking of there. Cadology said you could talk.
Yes.
If she can figure out how to DM me on Twitter or Discord, we can chat, but I'm not going to go back and forth with her. Like, I don't even know if she pays attention to DMs or not. It's like very frustrating. She wants to DM me on some platform and set it up. We can talk now or whatever, but she has to figure out how to do that. I don't go back and forth on this.
Yeah, this feels very much like me dealing with my audio issues.
Yeah, no, you're good. Okay, go ahead. No, hers are a million times worse. Sorry, go ahead.
That feels like a compliment. So, here's the thing. The implicit wrongness that I feel exists in that assumption is that you're going to be reincarnated with knowledge of your previous identity. And I don't see why that part, knowledge of your previous identity, is pertinent.
Well, because it would probably make everything a lot scarier, I would imagine, right?
Yes, that is the scary domain in which I'm operating, which is why I have death anxiety. Because, all right, you know, have you seen Memento?
Yes.
So, what condition did that guy have?
Some temporary amnesia.
Anti-retrograde amnesia.
Yeah, prohibited short-term memory encoding. Yeah.
So that guy's case was based on a real-life case, right? Where there was a real-life person who had developed anti-retrograde amnesia, such that his short-term memory kind of reset every 15 minutes in such a way that his brain could never consolidate his 15-minute chunks of life into a long-term cohesive narrative experience.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now take that guy and imagine he developed anti-retrograde amnesia in the womb.
In the womb?
Yes.
Okay.
And then he was born.
Okay.
Just try and draw out a picture of what this guy's experience is like for me.
Or I have no idea. It feels like, I've thought about this before, but it feels like, were you around when I asked the question, what if you consented to something and then your memory was wiped, and then they did that thing to you after your memory was wiped? Would you feel like that's okay? Even if you completely consented and you knew your memory was going to be wiped, it feels like there'd still be some level of non-consent there. That's like the kind of...
Yeah, that's kind of related. Yeah. Because
well, the reason, just real quick, the reason why I thought of that is that it kind of feels to me like your memory is probably a part of your identity. So that's why I'm drawing that parallel. The memory and the identity are probably linked to some extent. Yeah.
Yes. So in that thought experiment, even with the version of you that consented to have that thing being done to you, is not the same version of you that doesn't remember that giving that consent. In effect, those are two completely different people.
Not completely different, but yeah, two distinctly different people, right? Yeah.
Okay, you can think of it two distinctly different agents.
Sure.
So now, imagine this Memento guy. He's been born with anti-retrograde amnesia from the womb, and he grows up, all right? So now he's like 20, 30 years old, and his entire life, his brain has not been able to make his short-term memories line up with his organize his long-term memories in such a way that he ever develops even a coherent identity. In fact, that all he would be is a sort of an endless experience of now. He wouldn't know his name. He wouldn't know concepts. He wouldn't know any sort of he wouldn't have any framework for anything. He has no way of organizing information.
Yeah.
But there would be an experience, like there would be a thing there having an experience. Would you call that experience a person?
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's
Really?
obviously a different type of person, right?
I wouldn't call that thing a person at all.
Really? So inability to form short-term memory makes you not a person at all?
Because I don't call animals persons.
Yeah, but you haven't degraded to an animal, right?
As far as I'm concerned, that particular creature would be less than an animal.
Why is that?
Because being human kind of has to intrinsically involve having human experiences.
I mean, you're still having a lot of experiences, you're just missing some of them too, right?
No, you're missing all of them because you can't coherently put them together into a functional whole. You're not missing some of them, you're missing every single one of them.
Okay. It's possible, maybe, sure.
I feel like there's some part of you that's like skeptical. Where's the skepticism coming from?
I mean, obviously, you're making a really big ask that I basically completely write somebody off as a human being because he can't form short-term memory. So I would have to think about it a bit more. But I mean, like,
I'm asking you to write them off as much as I'm asking, could you engage with them as a human being ever?
Yeah, I mean, to some extent I could, but you can engage with non-human things as a human being very easily, right? You can engage with we engage with animals as human things, right? That's not really the interesting question. Is can I engage with them?
Okay, so you would have to anthropomorphize what is something that's essentially non-human.
Potentially, but I mean, in a way, I mean, solipsistically, we kind of anthropomorphize even other humans, depending on how you want to look at it, right? Because we don't technically know for sure if it's.
Oh, dude, you're tripping way more than I am.
No, but I mean, like, you could argue that, like, if we take the approach that we can't truly know if there are other minds, we kind of treat everybody as though they have a mind, even though we don't 100% know. So we'd be treating that. Now, obviously, there's going to be a fundamental difference between something like an animal versus something like a person, but we kind of treat them, when we anthropomorphize things, the same way we treat them as another human.
No,
right?
So when you say we treat them as a mind, there's a lot of buy-ins and, like, presupposed assumptions that we bring into dealing with something else that has a mind, right?
Okay.
Like, we expect that they're going to have some sort of a self-identity, a self-awareness, some sort of like a framework for how they exist in the world, how they're going to engage with it. And if they don't have that, if all you have is that endless experience of now that basically just only responds to stimuli, in what sense are you dealing with a mind? A mind is an ordered system of information.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. Yeah, sure, it could be a totally different thing. Sure, yeah. What's the next part of your?
So the reason I bring this up, I accept that you have some skepticism about my framework, but
Okay.
if you're playing along with it, I'm going to go on with the next part of this.
Yeah.
Imagine now that you have a universe that is basically just filled with philosophical zombies.
Okay.
All right? Does everybody in chat know what a philosophical zombies is? If they don't, can you break it down for them?
So there's a question of an experience of being a human. So what does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to have that experience? And there might be the potential that we're interacting with people that outwardly exhibit all the same traits and characteristics you would expect a human to have, but internally they're actually not having a human experience. They're not conscious at all. They're just going through the motions in a way that makes you think they're conscious. But for all intents and purposes, you can never tell. We would call that a philosophical zombie.
They're basically just behaving the way they do as pure physical causal law, right?
Well, I don't like to say that because it implies that your consciousness is not pure physical causal law, which it could be, but sure, we could say that, I guess, if you want.
Yeah, so that could be, I think, kind of important. We don't actually know for a fact that our consciousness, the experience we have as individuals, is actually just pure physical causal law. That's an assumption we make.
Sure.
So in this universe, literally, let's say everybody in that universe, except for one creature, is a philosophical zombie. And the nature of this creature is that every time it's one vessel, one philosophical zombie vessel, a human body dies, its experience jumps from this one mind to a different mind.
Okay.
This creature has no way of remembering that it once belonged to a different mind.
Yeah, true.
Whatever vessel it's currently occupying, it's always going to feel like it's always occupied that vessel. Would you be able to tell a difference between that world and our world?
No.
So if you had to tell a difference between that world and our world, how would you do it?
I don't believe there's any possible way to test for that.
Exactly. Now,
The question I've asked myself related to this is, like, for instance, who's to say that when we go to sleep every night, we don't essentially die and our experience completely ends, and then a new experience picks up basically when you wake up anytime there's an innovation of consciousness? Like, if that was the case, that you die when you go to sleep and then you go to some afterlife and then somebody else wakes up thinking they're you because they inherit all the prior memories and brain states from the day before, is there a way to test for that? And the answer would be no. There'd be absolutely no way to test for that, I think, right?
yes. But given that there's absolutely no way to test for that, here's me approaching the same problem I'm trying to describe from a different angle.
Okay.
People believe in God. And when people try to convince me to believe in God, all I can think of is, buddy, I have no reason to believe in God. I haven't seen God. Like, you haven't given me a single reason of any evidence or anything of that sort to believe in God. So why should I, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, I have no reason to believe that I'm not going to exist. I've actually never experienced not existing. So if you're going to convince me I'm going to die...
That's kind of a word game. I mean, like, you didn't exist before you were born, but there was no you to speak of.
I don't know that.
Oh, true, I guess, yeah, sure.
Do you know that?
No, I guess technically we don't, huh?
So given that you don't know if you don't exist, that's why I bought the whole previously that whole Android retrograde amnesia. If you ask that guy, if you could possibly ask that experience, when were you born, how did you exist, they'd never be able to answer. All they would ever know is that they exist in this continuous moment, and there would never be a moment of their existing experience where they could ever say, I'm not going to exist in the future. They have no framework that they're not going to exist. They have no evidence they're going to die.
Sure.
That the experience will end. So given that you don't know that your experience is going to end, and you say you want to maximize your experience, is it only for the experience in this particular life, or any other potential future experiences you might have?
Well, I mean, given that this is the only one that I seem to be able to know about, probably this particular life, I would say, huh?
See, here's where I'm having a problem with this. You don't have evidence that your experience is going to end, so your knowledge of your current experience should not restrict in any way your attempts to maximize any potential possible future experiences you might have.
I didn't follow that. Say that again.
Okay. Let me try and break this down simply. You currently are having an experience.
Yep, I hope so.
You don't know whether this. See, okay, wait. What I'm trying to talk to is I'm not trying to talk to the identity of Stephen Bunnell II. I'm trying to talk to the creature currently in possession of the identity of Stephen Bunnell II.
Mm-hmm.
That creature does not know if it's ever going to end.
Yeah.
For all you know, you might be jumping into a different mind as soon as you're born and continue your experience, and it could turn out that a lot of Stephen Bunnell's current experience is going to shape the future experience you're going to have as a different identity.
Yeah, sure, potentially, yeah.
So my question is, why would you continue living your life only as if your current identity was the only one that mattered?
Because we have no evidence that anything else will. So, I mean, I don't know if I would ever no, sorry. I'm not going to detriment my current life because of some hypothetical other one that might exist when I can't. I don't even know if I can know about that other life, right?
I mean, to be fair, you couldn't know about your current life before you started having it either. But for
to be fair, that is
you
true.
might have
But again,
been
it's
having
still super agnostic, right? I have no knowledge of it, so I'm not probably going to invest a great deal of time into it, right?
So there's one way of dealing with this question where you're framing everything. You're framing how you act in terms of the knowledge you do have. I'm asking you to frame it in terms of uncertainty of the experiences you don't know you're going to have.
Sure. I don't even know if I could begin to assign a probabilistic percentage.
You can't.
Yeah.
This is one of those situations. This may be the only situation ever where you can't assign a probabilistic prior to whether or not something is going to happen. And I feel like you kind of have to just bite that bullet and deal with it anyway. Because you don't know you're going to end. You actually have no idea that your experience is going to end.
Okay.
Where's the skepticism coming from is what I'm trying to get. Because I've had this conversation with myself before and I've given myself the same answers that you're giving me right now. And I don't know. I'm not convinced.
Of what?
Given that my experience is going to end, why I should treat this current experience I'm having as the only one that's valid for me?
I mean, you don't have to.
No, I don't have to. What I'm trying to get at is why doesn't everybody behave? I feel like the world would be a better place if everybody behaved like, all right, we've jumped into one character identity and there's a non-zero chance that in the future we'll have another character identity and the reason we think this is because we have no evidence where actually our experience is going to end. So given that, why aren't we trying to maximize our lives for all future possible experiences?
Because we have no evidence for that particular thing, and it would probably mean that we have to do worse in the life that we know for sure that we have. That'd be my guess.
Sure, but how much worse? Is there an acceptable? We make acceptable trade-offs for futures that we don't know are going to come true.
Yeah, we do it for our future children and civilization and stuff. So, but I'm guessing you probably want a greater sacrifice than that, probably.
No, I'm not asking for a greater sacrifice than that. In fact, the only reason I ever brought this up is I think a long time ago you were having a thought experiment conversation where you said something you were on the lines of your deathbed and there was a button you could press that would incredibly increase your happiness for the last 1 hour. What reason could anybody give to you for you to not press that button? Because pressing that button would mean the eternal torture and damnation of everybody else on Earth.
Yeah.
Do you feel like this conversation's giving you any bit of that?
I mean, it's a tad bit related. Yeah, sure.
So, now, given that thought experiment, like, would you change your answer at all?
I don't know. I don't have a good question. I don't have a good answer for it. No, I'm not sure.
Okay, you don't have a good answer. What are your potential answers?
I mean, I would lean towards no. You probably shouldn't push the button.
Why?
Intuition. I don't have a good answer. These are like questions that are like testing like past the boundaries of our existence. So I'm not gonna have like good solid answers with like proper justification for any of these.
No, sure. I'm not asking for solid answers. I'm asking for a range of answers.
It's an intuitive answer that you probably shouldn't like doom all of humanity to extinction just because you're about to die. And it seems like the driving force that keeps people moving forward probably involves some sort of obligation we feel to the human species as a whole. That's why people make sacrifice of their own lives for their children and for the planet. That's probably a good drive. It's a pretty strong intuitive sense you have. So I would probably lean into that and say, no, you probably shouldn't push the button to survive for 5 more minutes to prevent the eternal damnation of all of humankind. But I can't like axiomatically justify that or anything, because I mean, if you do die and everything ends at that point, who cares?
Honestly, that's like a little bit of what I was kind of hoping, that maybe we could make some progress towards that. Because I have that same intuitive answer that you do, but I'm trying to find a good way to axiomatically justify it.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know how you would. I don't know how you could ever do it with that one. I mean, I'm sure there are people that try, but it feels like at that point you're reaching into like some kind of like metaphysical domain that is like extending past like what we can obviously say is real and isn't real or whatever, right? Because you're gonna have to start making statements about like obligations you have beyond death or while you're alive for people that are beyond you dying. So yeah,
because technically what this question is dealing with is like what's that guy's name? Rollins whale or something? Rawls whale? Is that what you call it?
Roswell?
Like the whale of you have before you're born, and the kind of rules you'd like to have for life.
Oh, Rawls, just Rawls, right? Oh, you're talking about the veil of justice, I think, or something, right?
Yeah. So this is basically the veil of justice being applied. The veil of justice is usually applied before you're born. But I'm just trying to apply it right now before you're potentially born into a next experience.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're doing. This is like the egg video, I think. We might have even talked about this last time.
Oh, no, I think you brought it up with Ayla.
Oh, okay, sure.
Also, about Ayla, I'm glad you're getting along so well with her. You had no idea, like, how long I've been trying to get you guys to chat. That's been a good part of my... I feel like that's been one of my more valuable contributions to DGG. So thank you for spinning that out so well.
No problem. I mean,
yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay. What do you have good answers for how to keep people like motivated or interested in like all of mankind? Like, do you think you have a...
Honestly, right now, I feel like I love Japan, all right? Japan's a great fucking country. They're technologically like hyper efficient. They're almost like a kind of utopia in the way they've organized all the human systems to be optimized as possible. I don't know why Japan isn't fucking and having kids. Why is their fucking population declining? If all the places on the planet where I would want the maximum amount of children to continue being born, it would be a country like Japan. And I don't get it. Why would a country that's so close to what we'd almost consider a human utopia continues to decline in population? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what causes Japan's anxiety, actually. I mean, if you like the country so much, have you ever read anything on it? Like, what is there a reason given for why?
The reason you're mostly given is some sort of a cultural thing where...
Yeah, but they have all these like efficiencies and technological progress, I'm sorry. Like, what part of the culture could hold that back?
There's definitely something about young men being intimidated. Okay, this is maybe a separate conversation that was related to our relevant. I feel like there's this whole notion of feminism, that the way it was, the way this conversation was organized and expressed in the late 2000s, early 2010s, that basically told men, you're not entitled to a relationship. you're not entitled to a woman's affections. And that's true. You're not entitled to a specific woman's affections. However, as a human being, you are entitled to love and romance. And that part tends to get left out. So when I think of someone like irrelevant, and that's kind of like my proxy for most of the guys who are not in Japan,
okay,
I think of guys who've internalized this message that it's wrong to ask or seek out affection, romance, sex at all, because the message that you're not entitled to a specific woman got sort of garbled into a message that you're not entitled to women, period.
Sure.
So maybe that's one thing.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how much that affects.
I wasn't going to join about this, but just to be on the topic.
Hi, Abba.
Yeah, most of it's like financial. It's very expensive to live in Japan. And so for them, child rearing, it would cost a lot. And there's not a lot of child care support systems in a lot of the major cities. And so it's just difficult to have a kid. Financial is like the number one reason, if I remember correctly.
Oh, wait, so we've been having kids without good financial backings for most of human history. Why is this like such a incredible priority now that you have to have financial backing?
Because I think people are concerned with making sure that their children have good lives. And so generally women want to be further in their careers. They want to be more financially established. They don't want the anxiety of like not knowing where their kid's going to get daycare from or all these kinds of things. I mean, it's a problem even here in North America. You're seeing the declining birth rate for a lot of people who are
yeah, but I think he's asking because what you just said, like for instance, like people want to see their children do their best. That's probably always true, right? Like has there been a time in human history where like we don't give a fuck if our children do okay or not?
Yeah, they've always wanted that, and that's never stopped them from having kids.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about the anxiety people feel. So whatever circumstance exists in the past, that might be different, I agree. But I'm telling you that people nowadays don't want to have kids. They don't feel like their financial situations are good. And most people feel a tremendous amount of anxiety in regards to their financial situation.
Okay, so that would probably be a new thing where people start to regard financial limitations as a reason to not have kids. But I'm not sure I even buy into that as much.
Well, I mean, that's an anxiety that people have all over the world, where you're seeing declining birth rates. Vast majority of the time, the number one reason is financial anxiety. So I don't think all these people are making it up.
No. When he says making up, what he means is that like the financial anxiety might be a thing, but like in the past, people will have kids. So like today, we're like, I don't want to have a kid because I'm so worried that I'm not going to be able to afford them or, feed them well or, do the best I can as a parent. But in the past, people are like, well, I'm going to have a lot of kids because I know half of them are going to die. So like what caused the change in behavior that now financial anxiety is regarded as
we marry for different reasons. We have families for different reasons. Whereas I needed farmhands maybe 100 years ago. Now people want to have kids maybe to continue their family lineage, but generally it's like a symbol of love. They want to have that experience, and so they also want to make sure that those children are cared for. We treat our children today very differently than we do in the past because we tend to their needs distinctly different.
Yeah,
so
I think that's what he was.
Is different.
Yeah, I think that's what he was getting at. Was that like we have kids for different reasons today than we used to have kids? Essentially,
no,
right?
Yes,
yeah.
Okay, but then I have a question. It seems obvious to me that in the past, the situations we would bring our kids into was orders of magnitude worse than the situations we would bring our kids into now if we're choosing to have birth. So why do we feel like today's situation, why do we act like today's situation is worse than what we had in the past where people were having a lot more kids?
Well, it's not just that it's worse, it's that it's just not necessary. People don't feel like it's necessary to have kids. They want to have children, but it's not a necessity. I think a lot of people back in the day just had children by necessity. Sure, there was a desire for it, but it was absolutely necessary to have kids. And so the value systems have changed. The reasons why people want families have changed in many places. And so the reaction to the different circumstances societally is therefore different, or the response, which is not having kids for a lot of people.
Okay, but you think, I might accept that if like Japan is an extreme example. You feel like that's the same dynamic that's playing out across the entirety of the world?
I think in most developed nations, you're seeing the same trend of like basically birth rates declining steeply as technological advances are happening and people have more access to good jobs, including women. Then you're seeing them take the choice to not only delay birth and child rearing, but also some of them are just choosing to not do it entirely because they're looking towards different experiences for fulfillment. So if I go to a third world country, like most of my well-being or my sense of accomplishment is going to be from child rearing. Whereas if you live in a lot of Western countries, people's individual feelings of gratification and self-fulfillment doesn't just come from family. It can come from hobbies, it can come from passions, it can come from friendships and community, and those are like values that we in the West traditionally like to some degree.
No, see, here's why I hate what you just said.
Oh man.
It feels like you're saying that the better experiences we have as individuals, the less invested we are in having kids to help. I don't know. I feel like the better you're saying that the better our life is, the less we care about having kids.
That might be true though, right? And that actually intuitively, that kind of feels true, right?
That feels repugnant to me.
You can say it's repugnant, but so here's something that I would guess. Oh, actually, I use the same analogy with drugs, right? This is total bullshit. This is just conjecture that I feel, okay? But okay, this is just what I feel, okay? My guess is the worse your life is, the higher likelihood you have of being addicted to drugs. When I do MDMA, my high is going to be the exact same as somebody whose life sucks when they do MDMA, right? Or if we both did heroin, right? However, when I come down from my high, I'm stepping back into a life with a cool wife, with an awesome career, with I live in a cool area. There's like a lot of cool things in my life. So the difference between my high and my baseline is not as significant as the difference between the high and the baseline for somebody whose life sucks, right? When it comes to childbirth, my guess is probably going to be pretty similar. Having a kid is a really cool experience. You have children, you love them, it's super cool. That's going to be true whether you're mega rich or mega poor. However, mega rich people have a whole bunch of other things that they can do in life that's really cool as well, that makes that child thing not as attractive as an option as somebody who doesn't have as many options in life, but still like giving birth to kids is really cool. So yeah, it probably is the case that like the more awesomer your life is, probably the less attractive having children seems.
Okay, in that case, say you had to choose between two worlds, all right? Mm-hmm. In one world, everybody across the earth, their lives just continue to get better and better and better. The consequence was the world, you suddenly have an aging world that doesn't care about kids, versus the other world where people are kind of like either medium to moderately miserable. As a consequence, they have a lot of kids, and those are the two futures you could choose for Earth. Which one do you choose?
Well, I mean, like you present that as kind of like a hypothetical, but I think in some ways, I think that is the world right now. It's just being decided by women, right? So here, this is a very interesting thing when it comes to population sizes, is it might be the case that for a long time, we kind of thought that like, well, having children and taking care of families, like women love doing that. Women are built to nurture, and that's like the funnest thing in the world. Women will always want to do that. However, given the opportunity to live like a man, women actually think that those lives are pretty cool. They like having jobs. They like not being locked down to a house. They like being able to consequence. They like being able to travel around the world and do these things. Maybe it's the case that a world where we slowly open up more freedoms to women is a world where the human population goes extinct, because given other opportunities to do things, women don't want to just be moms. I think in a way, we might actually have access. That might be the world that we live in right now. And then, so then the question becomes, can you mandate that women, listen, you got to go back to having at least one kid per person, if not two, or 1.8, whatever replacement would be, right? Because right now, given the opportunity to choose to have children or to choose to live life in a manly way, where you get like freedom and cool shit and all this all the time, you're basically just saying like, fuck the human population, that we're not going to repopulate. I think to some extent that is where we're right now.
Blowing my mind. Sorry, you're not blowing my mind. You're scrambling it. You're taking an egg and putting it into a frying pan and doing unholy things with it. Okay, because if everything you're saying is in fact the actual dynamics of the world, then I would have to concede, based on my fundamental values, that the people who are advocating Sharia law are doing it right.
Well, I mean, I agree. That's the whole point that they're making, though, right? Is that women, given access to unrestricted freedoms and everything, are essentially making choices to end the human race, right?
No, there has to be something better. This cannot possibly be the configuration for human race, where if everybody gets happy, they choose to have... I feel like if you...
Well, but now you have to be careful, because you're bumping up into a road where you're like in a very cognitive, philosophical area right now. However, you're bumping into like evolution, right? Like things in the past didn't select for what makes everybody happiest. It just selected for what had the highest chance of propagating a gene. And it might be the case that women being locked down in pregnancy for a long time and all these other things that inhibit a woman's ability to move through the world like a man basically worked well for evolution. But if we fuck up enough of those things, for instance, like our diets right now, a lot of us are becoming obese. It might be given given like a lot of freedom, women choose not to have children. There's no reason why they need to be hard-coded to have kids, because 5,000 years ago, what else are you going to do besides fucking have children?
Women to be hard-coded to having kids. I just think having kids, raising a family is a rewarding intrinsic experience in and of itself, enough that I don't understand why more people aren't choosing to go down that route.
Because there might be other things in life that feel more rewarding, but you just never had those options growing up historically, right?
It's rewarding in the sense in that like scrolling TikTok, 500 TikToks in a day feels more rewarding moment to moment than reading a good book. But obviously reading a good ass book is more fulfilling than TikTok. That's what that's a distinction I'm drawing in my mind. All the other things that are not family, not raising kids, not like continuing to make sure that we don't have an aging population.
Here's a question for you, okay? This is something I've thought about a lot, okay? If men were given the opportunity to live lives like women, but they could still have families, do you think they would do it? I think the answer would be no. So let's say
live like women in what sense?
So as a man, my idea is once I get out of college, I've got like 10 to 15 of like very important career years, and then I just grow till the end, and like that's kind of like the path that I'm on for life. The idea that you can tell a man, listen, after you graduate college, maybe you can work for like 2 or 3 years, but now you're gonna need to take like probably anywhere from 6 to 8 years off to kind of do the child thing, and then you can go back to work. I think most men would be like, no, I'm never doing that. And it's like, well, don't you want to have children? And they go, no, I just won't have kids. Like, I feel like that would be an answer that a lot of men would give. And I think women given the same opportunity, I think are also making those decisions.
Men and women are different.
I don't know if they are that much in this sense.
50%
I'm not
agree
sure.
with you there. But for me, the very easy answer there is change the societal incentives such that bring the grandparents into it. Go back to a less nuclear family. Bring the aunts and uncles. Have a more sort of like a extended family dynamic where if one person is having kids, the rest of the community should be gathering around them so that their professional life is less disrupted while they're having the kid, and they can basically work 8 months, take 1 month off to be fully pregnant, deliver a baby, take maybe 2 weeks off to recover, and boom, they're right back into work. And if we could set up society like that, I feel like more people would be having kids because it wouldn't be that much of a headache.
I mean, he's not wrong. Destiny, what he's saying is not technically wrong.
I mean,
the whole problem.
The problem
with the financial aspects of how current society is. We don't have those kind of societal support systems. We don't have the financial capabilities to be able to pay for any of those holes that exist for a lot of people. And so the world he's describing, I don't think is entirely wrong. I think there would be more people that would be having kids. I just don't think it would fill the entire gap.
I don't know if that... So here's my understanding of this, is that trying to get people to have more children is really, 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 really hard. I think the number one example...
No, it's not.
No, hold
it's
on.
not.
Stop. Okay.
Hold on.
Let me...
Okay, you
Can I
finish
my point? Yeah, okay. My understanding is that a lot of countries through human history have tried to incentivize childbirth, and that almost every single time it's attempted, it just doesn't work. The biggest example I remember is, I want to say, under Mussolini, I think that they had huge payouts for people having children because they were trying to like stabilize or raise their population, and none of it worked at all. And I think that was like one of the biggest examples that I brought up. But I'm not aware of any policy where once it's in place, it actually is successful in getting people to have more children in developed countries. Now, if you know something different, like empirically, that's fine. Or
I do know something different.
Okay, yeah, go for it. Tell me, yeah.
Stop all the restrictions on teenage pregnancy. All of them. Let kids fuck. Let them fuck. Let them have as many babies as they want, as young as possible. Let the entire society, family, community come around to congregating and protecting and living, because kids don't... All the hormonal impulses that kids have when they come to and raising... accidentally giving birth to kids. We used to see that as a problem. Maybe that's the solution.
I saw my whole life flash before my eyes just thinking about having a kid when I was like 15. Holy that's so scary.
No, but they make it so that like, having a kid at 15 doesn't become a detriment for you.
I understand what you're saying, but you could lift all of that, but you'd still probably see a similar trend where even if you lifted all of that, you'd still more likely, the more opportunity you have in life the less likely you'd be to have children, right? Because
as you grow older, but I think 15-year-olds are too governed by their hormones to think about all the opportunities. They're more likely going to want to take the short-term pleasure of fucking that's going to lead to more kids, kids that's going to lead to a healthier, younger population base, and the rest of the world's community should come around to encouraging that, protecting the kids that are born. They tell the girl, okay, 15, you got pregnant, you deliver by 16, we're gonna take care of the baby. You spend the next 10 years, 15 years of your life focusing on your career. You don't have to worry about this child because we got it. We're gonna take care of this kid for you.
Yeah, I guess the question is just that, like, do we feel like the moral imperative is strong enough to restructure society such that we're going to be having people giving up opportunities and stuff to do it? I mean, I can see
as opposed to an aging population.
Yeah, but then this was the question I asked about women in the birth control thing: is do we have an obligation to maintain the population of the planet? Is that an obligation that we have? And should we be like
an obligation?
Yeah.
No, but if anybody states it's not a preference, I'm going to look at them side-eyed.
Well, hold on, but you can't say it's a preference and then talk about like radically restructuring society around that preference. It seems like you're saying that there is some obligation we ought to want to continue the human race such that we need to...
wait, we can absolutely radically restructure society around preferences. That's why birth control came around in the first place.
Yes, I agree that we could, but I'm saying that it seems like there's probably some moral obligation there if you're saying we ought to. We could do a whole bunch of things, right? Yeah.
Okay, fine. You know what? Good objection. So let's consider the alternative future where, because we are basically going to stop having kids as, say, the entire world develops to at least a middle class level of prosperity, we end up not having kids enough. Maybe in 5 generations time, everybody on the planet is living on some form of social security. There isn't enough labor going around, and all of civilization is about ready to collapse. And that's like the human project coming to an end.
Yeah, that's why we just import farmhands from foreign countries.
That's what I'm saying. The farmhands are going to become rich, and they're going to end up in the same situation that we are in now.
Yeah, but then the farmhands who didn't make it across the waters, they keep having babies, and then we keep... It's like the little farm that you keep pulling people out of. You're like, hey, man, we got a better life. You just got to come here and work at McDonald's. And then
I'm saying that at some point in the Earth's future, there are going to be no such farms left.
I don't know, man. They be having crazy amounts of babies over there. I don't think that's the case.
No, that's what everybody thought about India. India birth rate have plummeted like insane over the last 30 years.
You think it's a bad thing?
It depends on what you're framing it as. In some ways, it's a great thing. In some ways, it's terrible.
In India, like, don't you think it's like kind of a good thing? Did you have like too many people?
Damn, India's birth rate went from 6 births per woman 50 years ago, from 6 down to 2. That's insane.
A different and much more interesting case on studying like why you can't get birth rates to go up. Look at South Korea's birth rate. It is like 0.8.
Korea birth rate.
Oh yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, and they have some of the best childcare in the world by far. They have some of the most...
Jesus fucking Christ!
Okay, wait. Forethought. If you know about this, can I ask you? I'm gonna ask you. Ready? Hard question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't disconnect, or I'm unmodding you. Okay.
Okay.
What does Israel do to keep their birth rate high?
Hold on, I have no idea. I don't know Israel's birth rate.
It's over 2.5. It's been pretty stable for a long time. How do they incentivize it?
If I had to guess, it is probably unique to their culture. Israeli culture is very, very, very different, and I learned this when I met my stepfamily. There's a very much more collectivist culture and an idea around preserving Israeli and Jewish culture that I don't think it exists in much more individualistic countries.
It seems to run contrary to a lot of what I would assume works for maintaining traditional culture. So, for instance, here's a few statements I'm going to rattle off. I think all of these are true. Jewish women, I think, tend to be more educated than non-Jewish women, right, in the United States?
True.
That's
in the United States.
I'm pretty sure that's true, right? And in general around the world, I think Jewish people tend to value like education more. They tend to be more wealthy, and they tend to bend a lot more progressive, right? Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that, now again, I'm guessing, I'm almost sure that's true, but I'm pretty sure that all 3 of those things, being more educated for the woman, being more progressive, and being, oh fuck, there was a third one. Fuck, I don't remember what the third one was. But I think that all 3 of those things tend towards lower childbirth rates, right? So how do Jewish people keep it? Oh, and being wealthier. That was it, right? Wealthy,
so that would indicate they're not actually the reason you're tending towards lower childbirth rates. That's like a false correlation.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm asking, because it seems like in every other population group, I'm pretty sure that all three of those things, wealth, education, and progressiveness, probably will tend towards lower birth rates. But for Jewish people, it doesn't seem to be the case. So what do they do differently?
So I guess a really off-the-wall theory might be that when you go through some sort of extreme cultural shock as a group, that you can embed extremely deep and strong emotional and cultural ties that allow you to act contradictory to other environmental factors. So I think like the Holocaust has been a catalyzing event for embedding certain values into Jewish culture.
Tell them.
Wait, no, that sounds fucked up. Like, what you're saying is that to ensure that your race is going to continue propagating healthily, you got to Holocaust them every century or so?
Absolutely.
I'm not saying you should do that because I don't believe we're obliged to reproduce. But
if I'm Israeli and I keep hearing like, yo, wipe out the Jews and all the Arab states around me are saying that, maybe you're just like, yo, we got to keep reproducing and get ahead of the enemies, right? Like, I could definitely see a cultural experience like that, or like a world history event like that, pushing everyone to feel like there's an anxiety towards having kids. Now, of course, there's probably other factors, but I could definitely see that one specifically being true. That's actually
wait. Sorry, there's some guy in chat called Wind who's like, "Why do we give a fuck about birth rates?" I'm sorry, if you don't give a fuck about the human project in general, I don't know why you're commenting in chat. Go fuck yourself.
Damn. Yikes.
Damn, you got one guy.
You got
one.
Oh,
hold on. I did read that. So it is not only the heredom. It says here, recent studies have shown that the rise in Israeli fertility over the past 20 years is also attributed to the increased births among women who self-identify as secular or traditional.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I don't know if I could feel that, because again, that religious component is usually counteracted by being wealthier and more educated and more progressive, right? So they might be like,
and more
quote
traveled.
Unquote, and more what?
And more traveled, because something that's really interesting is that a lot of Israeli people get educated and spend a lot of time outside of the United States and then just go back to Israel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So so your question, Mr. Indian guy. You should wait. You are Indian. Yeah. Okay. You should. You should figure out what Jewish people are doing, because it seems like they have figured something out for this.
No, it seems clear that the Jewish people are maintaining a sort of high birth rate. It's exactly right because of what Forethought said. Is because,
I'm not claiming that is exactly.
Well, we don't know.
Right. That is just a theory in my head.
That's like an assumption.
It's the same theory I have. So
but I'm sure that we could probably look at other groups that have been dramatically impacted by horrible events, right? Like the Holodomor hit like Kazakhstan as well, or you've got like the Armenian genocide. Like, are these groups, do they have massively high birth rates? Is that the case?
You know what? Good question.
I don't think. I'm not sure if those events
Kazakhstan birth rate
to their
also Kazakhstan birth rate is 3.13. Yes.
Well, yeah, but like you also have to control for the reason why I'm pointing out Israel is because Israel is also a relatively wealthy and educated country. I don't know if Kazakhstan.
It's also a new one, though. There has to be something said about that. I'm pretty confident that if you're founding a new nation or a new country over the last little while, there's probably a certain amount of that goes into why these birth rates are fairly high.
Sorry, Abba, could you repeat that?
Because it's a relatively new nation, I imagine that's also in part. Because like when we talk about the Holocaust and all the anxiety that goes into that, considering it's a new country and its current political situation at the moment, what it's been like for the last 50, 60 years, there's probably a lot of that plays into why the situations. What I'm basically trying to say is the circumstances that exist in Israel are very unique to its own country. I know Destiny's talking about finances and all the other stuff, but living in Israel, I imagine, is distinctly different than a lot of different things.
No, absolutely. I agree that living in Israel is like, there is a sort of a cultural mindset.
Sure.
Okay, this is my theory. There's a cultural mindset that has nothing to do with wealth, that has nothing to do with your persecution, that nevertheless leads you to building more of your population that currently exists, at least the replacement level. There is a sort of like, I feel like there's like a sort of nihilism that creeps into people whenever they gain too much wealth and they start listening to too much news or too much politics, where they feel like the world is not worth living for. And that's insane to me, because would any of you say that the experience you're having in life is bad enough that you wouldn't want more kids to experience what life has to offer?
No, but again, that's why I don't think it's necessarily that. I think that especially once you start to hit wealthy statuses in other countries, there are so many more things life has to offer rather than kids, and kids can counteract your ability to have those things.
Okay, you keep saying that, but what kind of things?
Well, I mean, like the ability to pursue a career to the max, the ability to travel, the ability to...
Okay, say you've got an extended family that's taking care of your kid. Now you can travel and pursue a career.
I'm not sure if... I don't know if it's as easy as you're saying, like just have an extended family, right? So firstly, an extended family, in your case, if you're talking about maximizing birth rate for everybody, the extended family can only be grandparents. It can't be aunts and uncles anymore because all of them would have kids too, right?
It would be. I can imagine it being sort of like a shared project.
Well, no.
Every family throws up.
Let's be clear. Hold on. In a world where you're talking about like maximizing birth, because usually when we say extended family, we think of like aunts and uncles and all those things, right? But like the aunts and uncles are all going to have kids now, and their kids are all going to have kids. So we're really just looking at grandparents. That's probably like the only people that are going to be available, like unless you've got like a gay aunt or a gay.
We're not grandparents.
What?
No. Fuck gay aunts and gay grandparents. I am talking about, let's say, there seems to be in every generation, if you have like 4 kids, one kid always turns out useless, doing nothing with their lives. They're best primed to be the babysitter for the rest of the family.
How are you going to get them to agree? Like, I don't know. I don't even know how you...
How do you get them to agree? Free board, free lodging, free food. Like... There's so many ways you can get them to agree. They're basically providing a service.
So you want to trust the fuck up in life with like raising your kids?
I'm sorry, what?
You want to trust the fuck up in life with raising your kids?
I'm sorry, you keep cutting out in the beginning there. Say that again.
I said you want to trust the fuck up in life with raising your kids.
No, it doesn't have to be a fuck up. It just has to be someone who isn't ambitious enough to pursue a career. Maybe they're working like a part-time grocery clerk job 2.5 days of the week. The rest of the time they're home and they can take care of your kids.
Also, yeah, to be fair, a fuck up can babysit, right? Watching a kid and making sure the kid doesn't die isn't that hard, right? Like, it's not like babysitters are like the most qualified people in society. Like, this person wouldn't be in charge of like your entire child, but like, well, the parents work whatever that's possible. I just don't see. I don't know if you'd have that many resources available for everybody to be taking care of children throughout their entire life. I don't know if grandparents would want to do it. You know,
I don't even.
Grandparents 100% want to do it.
I don't even know if they want to do it. Like this idea that these like your brother who's not doing anything other than grocery stores is just going to want to raise her kids. Like I don't know. To me, this
when you're responding to me, you're talking like there's only one person you can ask. The whole point about having an extended family is that there's at least 5 people you can ask.
I just don't think most people have that situation, for sure.
No, yeah, they don't have that situation because our culture and our society is not organized that way. Currently, I used to live in Malaysia. Over there, people have this weird living system where it's called long houses. It's basically one building in a straight line, a huge giant rectangle lifted by stilts off the ground. And it's got 40 living quarters for 40 families, and the entire thing functions like one village, but it's not big enough to be a village. It's not small enough to be like even neighborhood. It's a long house, and they take care of each other. And they were some of the happiest people I've ever seen in my life because it feels like there was no problem that any one person could have that the rest of the longhouse couldn't solve. They had access to that much minds, muscle, and resources.
Sure. So the problem with that is that, like, it is possible that the West, air quotes, is going through a just a great cultural mistake where individualism is extremely valuable and is a mark of status in society. We drive our own cars as a mark of status. We own our own single-family houses as a mark of status. And we live farther and farther away from other people as a mark of status. Like having your own property is a huge deal. The amount of restructuring we'd have to do to make long housing not seen as like a step backwards for your personal progress I don't even think it's possible, honestly.
True, we don't even like public transport because we associate buses with poor people sometimes.
Okay, sure. In that way, I would say maybe the US and the West is collectively not conducive to the kind of system I'm trying to describe. But Japan isn't an individualist society. It's a collectivist society to begin with.
Well, what about, here, I'm curious, what about for India? Like, doesn't India have like strong extended family and all this stuff? Why did their birth rates plummet?
Yeah.
Sorry, why are the birth rates what?
Why did the Indian birth rates plummet?
Yeah.
Because the government made a crazy extended effort to make those birth rates plummet. This includes like insane propagation of condoms and family control and planning and all that, because during the time when all these programs were instituted, people were viewing the population control as something that would go crazy and something to be avoided. I do think that was a mistake.
You think it was a mistake to give the people all these condoms?
They offered people money to get sterilized, actually.
Yes, they did.
So wait,
yes.
when you said there wasn't too many people, what do you mean? The government clearly thought there was too many people?
Yeah, the government thought there were too many people because...
I think I agree.
But I don't feel like... I don't think the government was right. Right now, China is going through what is essentially a slow demographic collapse because of their one-child policy, where they have too many young people who've got to create the economy necessary to sustain too many old people. Nobody wants to be in that situation.
I think there's a solution to that. In Africa, what they do if you get too old is they give you a spear and they tell you to go off and have your final fight. So...
No, you know what? Based. I actually agree with that. I feel like old people should be working themselves to death very much earlier. That doesn't mean that we should be having less kids, however.
I will say, I did read this, and this fact kind of threw me off. Orthodox Jews apparently have an average of 7 kids. I think Israel is probably seeing a crazy birth rate, partially because Orthodox Jews are just taking up the workload for everyone else who's fucking around.
But what's really interesting about that is that difference between conservatism in Judaism does not carry over to like other ideologies as strongly. So like conservative women in America compared to compared to liberal women in America, I think the difference is like it's like 0.5 kids at most, adjusting for
I mean, I don't know. Hey, listen, have you ever seen like Orthodox Jews?
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, that orthodoxy is being influenced by something else.
Hey, man, they look like they're from the past. I was in London, and I was staying in the neighborhood, and I swear to God, every time I was getting in the Uber and I was driving past a group of them, like, it looked like, what's that show with the Englishmen who run a mafia?
Wait, are you thinking...
Peaky Blinders?
Yeah!
I know what you're talking about. Love that show. Good show!
Blinders.
You have to have been to New York.
Are you guys thinking,
like,
are you thinking Orthodox Jews or Hasidic Jews?
I don't know, the ones who look like they're a blast from the past. Like I don't know.
Like the Amish?
I thought they were Orthodox. I could be wrong. It could be Hasidic.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry, because I thought Orthodox people can be like normal people that just like live life, but I could be wrong on that.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I appreciate it.
Somebody in chat just one-guyed me again. They said I sound like the rich kid who understands the poor experience. No, I'm not a rich kid. I'm a middle-class kid whose parents basically never saved money in their lives. So I had a middle-class experience with basically no financial backup whatsoever throughout my life. So, yeah.
Based.
Fuck. I guess, that's mostly it for me, because I have exhausted all of that for me.
Oh, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you believe human brains are uniquely exceptional in some way?
Yeah, no shit.
Ooh,
I mean...
No shit, he got you, dude.
So, beyond that...
Beyond that, what?
I'm trying to think of the proper way to phrase this question. Do you believe it's human consciousness that is unique to humans, or is it something else?
I think... Okay, so fuck. Now we're going back to the earlier conversation I was having with Destiny. There is something called the experience that we're all having. I think the experience of experiencing qualia, of being aware, of being able... of being something that can actually suffer, not as a philosophical zombie, but as something that's actually living and real. I think most sentient beings have that. What makes human beings special is that they can take that phenomenon and do an infinite amount with it to make the experience better for everyone else that can't do something about it.
Okay. Gotcha.
Where were you going with that?
No, just I just have a very different opinion on like human brains and human consciousness. I think we're very mundane as creatures go. I don't think there's like something
What?
unique and special
The
about
human brain is literally the single most complex object in the entire universe.
Let forethought tell you why we're a boring species.
I'm not saying we're boring. I'm just saying it seems like we have to obey the exact same laws and rules and have the same holes in our ability to reason that most other creatures do. And that when you look at other aspects of ethology and you look at the intelligences of other animals, it doesn't seem like our ability and our cognition is not different in qualia. It is just different in the way that we have managed to leverage it to build tools and build memory collectively.
Trash.
Yeah, but why are you dismissing the fact that we can leverage the fuck out of that as something insignificant?
I'm not saying it's insignificant. I'm just saying like we are not.
You said it's mundane.
I'm saying the way our brains operate is mundane. We are not like uniquely set apart from animals.
Someone's gonna play
in my mind.
Wait, I don't understand. You grow bees, right? Like you work with bees.
Yes.
So you can't see the way that bees function and the way humans function. I appreciate the ways bees function. I've seen like a shit ton of YouTube videos about bees, but every time I see a YouTube video about bees, how bees function, it makes me think, holy shit, I am so glad we're human.
True.
Okay.
Yo, somebody got.
You don't feel. Wait, I want to know, why don't you feel that way?
Because it seems like that intelligence or our consciousness is not something tremendously unique. Is it the fact that we have built this entire world around it to support it so that a human being can actually grow into something that is as impressive as we are today? I think if you take a human and a naked chimp and throw them in a forest 2,000 years ago, their ability to operate within that space would be functionally similar. I don't think we are uniquely gifted.
Okay, I think I understand.
Wait, hold on. Really?
Human beings? Wait,
a human being and a chimp thrown into the forest? I feel like the human being would succeed.
I
every
understand,
time, right?
but I disagree.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I just think we'll fundamentally disagree on this.
No.
Please.
Wait. I'm actually going to ask, forethought, have you ever done mushrooms?
Oh.
No.
Please.
Okay. Fuck. Okay, this is going to sound condescending as fuck, but there's more of a pleading.
Do it. Condescending.
Here we go. Here comes
there's more of a pleading. Find some mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms,
and then
do them. There is a certain experience you're going to have on them that bees cannot have.
Okay.
How do you know?
How do you know that? How can you possibly know that?
Yeah.
You know what? It's true. I can't know that. I'm gonna bet 98 against it.
If you've taken psychedelics and think that way, then you didn't really get tapped into the ether of the universe. Experience shows me that you haven't really tapped in to what psychedelics are about.
Listen, I've done like 40 trips so far. I've seen the full range of it, okay?
I think you just ate some bad mushrooms. You weren't on that real shit.
I've
40
had
trips is a lot.
multiple different vendors, unless they were all bad. Okay, wait, sorry, actually, this sounds serious. Explain what your contention with what I just said was again.
So you just assumed the bees' experience on mushrooms. You have no idea how they would react or what kind of psychedelic experience.
No, I know for a fact that the bees don't have the human type of brains.
No, but that doesn't mean that they don't have an experience that can be just as thrilling or enthralling or as colorful.
They can have an experience that's intense, but not as dimensionally complex. Hard no.
I disagree.
Okay, let's move this to something closer to human beings. Would like a chimpanzee having a mushroom trip, is that like pretty close to a human experience?
It would be about 97% close, yes.
Okay, what about a dolphin?
93% close.
Okay, a crow?
91.
Okay, so you think that human beings are like super unique and special based on like a 3% difference between us and chimpanzees?
The 3% lets us command nature to a degree that no other animal can. This is like one of those cases where our experience and our ability to do things with that experience has a vastly greater effect on the universe than a dolphin, a chimp, or a crow could ever have. And that, I think, does make us special, yes.
Okay.
Also, careful with that, just 3%, okay? Because a few percentage points of DNA can make, like, what is the difference between somebody that has, like, the genes that predispose you to, like, schizophrenia versus not? It's probably, like, 0.0000001%.
Yes, exactly.
Of your genome. Like, I'd be careful, 3%, that's a lot of DNA, also.
That's a lot of DNA.
Or, like, They say like there are trees with 98% the same DNA as humans or something.
Depending on how you measure
Steve,
it, right?
we watched the same lectures. Yeah, I know.
Oh, well then why did you say something so dumb?
I'm using the numbers he gave, so my bad.
Forethought, do you not think that like the capability for syntactic language makes us unique? Like significantly unique. We're the only.
Bro!
We are not the only.
Oh, really? What other animals are capable of syntactic language?
So, for instance, there are certain. I forget.
He's going to say bees.
The African gray parrot. The African gray parrot is like uniquely well equipped to deal specifically with human language. It's one of like the easiest things to study in ethology because you can actually just directly communicate it with it to some degree with just human language.
Shot. I don't believe
no
that.
way.
I do not
Let me
believe
look it
that.
up.
There's animals that we can just talk to and nobody's talking about this? No shot.
We're the only creatures that we know of that are capable of syntactic language. If you teach a parrot a word and then you teach it other words, like it doesn't know how to combine them. It's not able to make sense of them.
That parrot is basically just following if-then statements.
No, oh god, I'm gonna. Okay, so no. The reason I was brought up that example is because it understood what the language meant. So, for instance, you could ask it to subtract numbers. You could ask it, what is 3 minus 2? And it would answer 1, not because it remembered that answer, but because it understands that 3 represents 3 individual things.
Wait, no, how do you know that? Like, there was this whole experiment in the 19th century with the horse that was basically asked mathematical questions.
Yeah, I've heard about that fake thing. Yeah, I've heard about that.
Okay, not even the smartest primates are capable of doing this.
Well, this parrot is special.
I don't know. Like it might be able to understand certain morphemes, but for example, if you taught it what's 2 plus 3 and it knows the answer is 5, I would be very surprised to learn if you asked it what's 3 plus 2 that it would come up with the same answer.
Or that it would know that 1 plus 4, the 5 that came from 1 plus 4 is the same 5 that comes from 2 plus 3. I don't know. You were saying syntactic understanding. I thought that was semantic understanding. Or you're just saying syntax is an expression of semantic understanding.
No, semantics is the meaning of words. Syntax is the order of words and how they relate to each other.
Oh, okay, never mind. I'm sorry. Searle, I think in some philosophies they use semantics and syntax to mean different things than those things. I know what you're talking about normally, but where I think Searle uses semantic to talk about like the understanding, not just like do you know what a word means, but like the actual like subjective understandings that we have of phenomenon. Like a
wait, who are you covering? Cyril. I'm not Cyril. I'm Scrybal. Jesus fucking Christ.
I'm talking about the philosopher guy, Cyril.
Whoa, okay, how do you not know me, Destiny? I'm the bee guy. What the fuck's the problem?
Okay, yeah, we were talking about bees and mushrooms. I really have something to say. So actually, there's a specific type of myco honey that is actually life-saving to bees that has actually helped them pollinate and stopped bee colonizations from dying off. So to say that bees like have different brains and they can't like comprehend like something like mushrooms is actually just really silly. And you should research stuff like that because it actually
yeah, do your research.
I'm sorry, what?
Vertical gardens. No, this is really important that everyone needs to know about. Paul Stamets.
Everyone needs to know about bee trips.
No, I'm trying to
listen to stretch. Okay, we're
talking
talking about bees.
Paul Stamets made, and they're literally saving the bees, and it's to give this like myco honey to these bees to help them pollinate because you know that's like the whole food chain matters. It's not just like humans they have consciousness, their brains are like so different. It's all connected in some important way. And if you really took mushroom Scrybal, I think you'd know that.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
Oof.
You were saying about you were being kind of like condescending about someone else taking mushrooms, but then you were like, mushrooms don't affect bees, but they do. They do everything.
No, listen. If mushrooms affect bees, fantastic. I love that for the bees. All right. Second, I'm really appreciative of you coming in as maybe the newest orbiter. I really hope that you don't turn into Lab 2.0.
It made me feel special, so thank you for that, Scrybal. I saw that. You know.
Oh, you saw? Sorry, you saw what?
I did a residential like orbiter card now or something because you made that post.
Oh yeah, I do hope you turn into an orbiter. I think you'll be good for the stream.
But
that said, if it turns out that
we got too many Indians.
Oh my god!
If it turns out that the mushrooms are good for the bees, great for the bees, I just want them to have a greater effect on humans in general. And it feels like I have a lot of concepts in my head that I want people to engage with, that the fact that they haven't had mushrooms makes it hard for them to engage with it.
So one thing though that I was saying, like, so I have had, plenty of mushrooms before. And one thing you were saying about like, support systems, like you were saying that people should just have extended family things, and you were saying like let the kids fuck, I believe, to quote it exactly, to like okay, just making sure, Dude, are you aware of like American foster care systems? And
yeah,
how
the
many
foster care
people-
systems suck, and I'm hoping the more people have fuck and have kids, the foster care system will be forced to evolve, because as it stands right now, it's unsustainable. But the fact that it's unsustainable,
is a solution to that system evolving necessarily. I think that would overwhelm the system and cause more kids to fall through the cracks and end up in poverty.
That's not a good enough reason to not have kids.
Ooh.
I mean, I think people should be more cautious when they're having kids, because when people are just having kids willy-nilly and don't even have the emotional capacity to really take on another life, that's not right.
Agreed. I feel like right now people are being too cautious. We need to become slightly less cautious than we are right now.
That's easy to say as a man who doesn't have to go through the troubles of childbearing or having your career.
No, fuck you. I will become a stay-at-home husband if my wife needs me to become one.
Where's your kid? Where's your wife then, huh?
Listen, I just got out of a 5-year relationship. Don't look at me.
You want to have your kids, I bet.
He's looking for a wife, okay? Damn.
You know what? Good one. I'll give that to you.
Well, where's Abba's kids? Yeah. Challenge him on that. Don't let him hit you on that.
That's true. Where's your kid?
You should have had your responsibility. I don't have that worldview. I think if women want to pursue their careers and do whatever they gotta do, then I'm fully supportive. I don't have.
Listen, Abba, I'm gonna. You're gonna have egg in your face. 10 years down the line, I'm gonna have 10 kids, and you're gonna feel so miserable and embarrassed. It's not even fucking funny.
Oof. Yeah, I'll be just dancing with your wife at the club. That's what I'll be doing. Okay, so anyways,
listen, even if I'm going to get fucked, it's going to be everyone's kid except yours. Okay, you're never gonna be the father of my kids.
How long were you with her?
Oh my god. Are you guys okay?
We're okay. Sorry about the screaming gain thing. My mouth came too close to the microphone.
Jeez.
Okay, so WickedSupreme, what were you asking about specifically with regard to language?
Well, we do have a pretty unique capacity, the kind that we are not aware of anywhere else on Earth, to be able to review, comprehend, record, and recall concepts in a way that no other animal can. It's pretty unique. It's kind of the reason that we have like an organized global society. We're able to, cooperate and organize and have revolutions of thought and shit like that no other creature has been capable of.
Okay, hold on, guys. Listen, before you do this, okay, I told Melina and her dad that we'd go out to eat soon. I need to do that. I'm just gonna leave you guys on. So good luck. We're trying not to be crazy. I'll be back in like an hour.
Expect my royalties in the mail.
Yeah, you'll get your royalties later. Have fun.
I didn't come here to talk about bees, bro. I didn't come here to talk about bees.